Hello everybody, I'm going to make managerial accounting very easy for you so you don't have any problems with activity-based costing, traditional costing, job costing, process costing. Like you have so many costing things which don't really mean the same thing. So we're going to break it down of how to think about all of the topics in relation to each other. Let's go. So first thing in managerial accounting that you have to realize is the most important topic in managerial accounting is the manufacturing costs. Now, how many manufacturing costs are there? There are three manufacturing costs. We have direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Direct material is the material used to make the product. Direct labor are the people who are actually making the product, so the labor who's actually working on the product. And then the manufacturing overhead is all of the factory related costs other than direct material and direct labor. That's it. Easy, yeah? So if we talk about examples, manufacturing overhead examples will be factory rent, factory electricity, factory utilities, factory insurance, and all of these things that are factory related costs, but they are not direct material or direct labor. Done. Now, when it comes to calculating the manufacturing cost, first you have to realize what kind of business you have. Do you have a business that provides custom products to people? Or do you have a business that produces the same product for everyone who wants to buy that? Now, when you're making custom products for people, you will use job costing to calculate the manufacturing cost of that. Now, job in managerial accounting is called order. So when we think of an order, that's what a job means in managerial accounting. Say a customer comes to me and I'm trying to calculate, okay, how much it will cost me to complete this person's order. That's job costing. How do you do that? Same three things: direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Now, direct material, direct labor, we always know how much we'll use because it's simple, right? Let's say I'm making a table for a client. I know how much wood I'll need. I know how many hours I'll need my people working on it. But the manufacturing overhead is a complicated part. Like, how do I know how much of the factory rent was used on this product? So that's the problem with the calculating manufacturing cost in any topic. So to deal with that problem, to find manufacturing overhead, we have two-step way. First step is to find the manufacturing overhead rate, which is referred to as predetermined overhead rate. Second step is to multiply the predetermined overhead rate by the allocation base that was actually used on this job. Usually the allocation base is labor hours. So we distribute the manufacturing overhead based on labor hours, and then we allocate the overhead to that product based on how many labor hours it actually used. Now, process costing is the same, but the difference is process costing is not for a business that provides custom services to people. For example, if you have a hospital, it provides custom services to people, right? One patient might need this scan, one patient might need like this weird type of medicine, or one person might have back pain. Like everybody has their own needs. That's where you use job costing. Process costing, let's say Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola makes the same Coca-Cola for everyone. It's not like custom for Shaheen, custom for a Mark, custom for Walden. Like, that's not how it works. So when you're making Coca-Cola in mass production, you'll use process costing because you're not making a customized product for someone. You're not completing an order for someone. You're making something in mass production, so you need to calculate the total cost that you have spent on making that product, and you want to be able to calculate the cost of each unit. And that is where we use process costing to find the per unit cost in a situation where you are making mass production general. Now in job costing, we already talked about that. In job costing, you will know the direct material, you will know the direct labor. The problem is the manufacturing overhead. So to find manufacturing overhead, we have two approaches. We have traditional costing, which basically says calculate one single overhead rate and just use that to distribute the overhead to the products. And then we have activity-based costing, which says calculate the rate for each activity within the overhead separately and then allocate that to products based on how much those cost drivers the product actually ended up using. Now, when we're talking about activity-based costing and traditional costing, the difference is when a business is making one product, you can use traditional costing as it's quite accurate. However, when you're making more than one product, now you have to switch to the activity-based costing to be more accurate. However, activity-based costing is a little bit expensive. You need more people to keep track of most things. That's why it's not always possible. But if possible, do activity-based costing. So far what we discussed, to summarize it, we said most important topic in managerial accounting is the manufacturing cost. We have three manufacturing costs: direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Then we said, when we're talking about calculating the manufacturing cost of a product, you need to first realize what kind of business do you have. You have business that produces custom products, means you'll use job costing, or you have business that makes mass production, which is process costing. So, and within the job costing, to calculate manufacturing overhead, we said we have two ways. We have traditional costing, which is not so accurate. It basically says calculate a single rate and use that to distribute the overhead to the products. And then we have the activity-based costing, which says calculate the rate of each activity within the overhead separately, distribute that to the products accordingly to how much they actually ended up using of that specific activity. Then in managerial accounting, you learn something called CVP analysis, which is referred to as cost volume profit analysis. Now that is basically judging like what is your break-even point, means how many units you need to sell to not lose any money or make any profit. So the profit is zero at the break-even point. So you need to calculate that at the start of each year to know the minimum point. You don't want to make zero profit. You just want to know what the minimum point is. So if you go below that, you start losing money. If you go more above that, you start making a profit. Now in that topic, you also learn target profit, means how many units you need to sell to generate a certain amount of profit that you want to make. Similarly, the other components you learned there, but that's not our concern in this video. This is the summary video. So let's move on to this thing. Next topic in managerial accounting that you learn is relevant costing. Now, relevant costing is how we make a lot of decisions about our business. And by the way, these are specifically short-term decisions, not long-term decisions, yes, but they are short-term decisions. Okay. Now, when you're making short-term decisions, it can be many different types of decisions. It can be make or buy decision, means should I make the components of this product myself or should I outsource it and buy it from someone else and then make the product? Second, a special order decision. Should I accept a certain order from a client or should I reject it? Limiting factor decision. If I have a limited quantity of certain input, like let's say I make pizzas, burgers and chicken rolls. If I have limited amount of cheese, how do I decide which product should I use that cheese on to maximize my profit? Another decision, the keep or drop segment decision. Now let's say I'm Nike and I have this clothing segment and then I have this shoes segment. So I want to decide, okay, which of those is actually losing me money and I should drop it. Let's assume one is actually losing money. So you'll use this decision to decide whether to drop a segment or not. It's actually more complicated than you might think. You might think, okay, if it's losing money, it will be easy to calculate the loss and you just get rid of it. No, it's not actually that simple. You learn that in managerial accounting. And there are many other decisions like that you'll learn in this relevant costing area. So after relevant costing, now we have budgeting. Now in managerial accounting, budgeting basically means forecasting, estimating, goals for the future. So basically, at the start of each year, you produce these budgets. What is going to be your sales budget, means how much you want to sell. What is going to be your production budget, how much you want to produce. So you prepare all of these budgets to estimate what is going to happen in the future or prepare goals for the future. Obviously, when you have goals and you know what you're going for, there's harmony within the company because each department knows what they're supposed to do. So the sales department, let's assume the goal is to sell 1,000 units. Sales department will try to implement strategies to sell 1,000 units. Production department will implement strategies to produce 1,000 units. So there's harmony. It's not like one department is not doing the complete job and hurting the other departments. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. That's the great thing about budgeting. And at the end of the year, you can compare the actual performance with the budgeted performance and see where you went wrong and maybe make some changes so it doesn't happen again. So with budgeting, you also learn a topic called variance analysis, which basically helps us dive deeper into why a certain thing didn't meet up to the budget. So why this actual is different than the budget, we dive deeper into that. That's called variance analysis. We calculate what caused the variance, means the difference between actual and the budgeted, and now what should be done about it. If it happened because of genuine reason, of course, it's fine, no problem, okay? But sometimes it's not for a genuine reason, it's because of some inefficiency, some employee messed up or things like that. Then you can either punish that employee or take some other actions that will prevent this mistake from happening in the future. That's the variance analysis topic. Then there are capital budgeting decisions, means long-term decisions. Like for example, I have this investment opportunity, should I invest in that or not? That's where we use the net present value concept, the IRR concept, and all of the other small concepts. So that's for long-term decisions. We already learned short-term decisions, which are relevant costing, like outsourcing decision, special order decision, and things like that. So in the end, to summarize everything, we said, so the most important thing in managerial accounting is to understand the manufacturing costs, which are direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. And we said that direct material, direct labor are always given in the questions because we always know what they are. However, the manufacturing overhead is what's missing, and it's very hard to find what that was. So we have techniques to find that. So we said there are two ways to find manufacturing overhead. There's the traditional costing way, and there's the activity-based costing way. Now, after that, we learned, obviously, to calculate manufacturing overhead, you have two different mainly used methods, traditional costing, activity-based costing. So I hope that you enjoyed this managerial accounting video. This was a short summary explaining the connection of each topic and what they're supposed to do. And I realized from teaching managerial accounting that this is the area that people struggle. They don't understand why this topic is different from the other topic. So I hope you realize that every topic has its own purpose. Now, if you want to learn all of these topics, like specifically dive deeper into them, how to solve all of these questions and all of these calculations, you can subscribe to my channel because I keep uploading these long form videos as well, where I show you how to solve things, what are the concepts and everything. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next video.